The marvelous episode of the meeting of the two avatars of Vishnu, Rama and Parashurama. Lord Shiva gave his Pinaka bow to a king who was an ancestor of King Janaka, the father of Sita. Vishnu too decided to do the same and gave his bow Saranga to sage Richika. In time, Saranga came into the possession of Parashurama, the sixth avatar of Vishnu, and Richika's grandson. In the kingdom of Videha, ruled by King Janaka, the Pinaka bow was treasured with utmost care. The bow was so heavy that it took 7 to 8 strong men to lift it. Once, when Janaka's daughter, Sita, was playing in the palace with her sister, she noticed the bow and lifted it with ease. King Janaka was greatly astonished at this sight and decided that he would give his daughter in marriage to one who could lift the bow. During Sita's Swayamvara, King Janaka invited all the princes from the neighboring kingdoms, and to test their worthiness the suitors were asked to lift and string the mystic weapon. Not one was successful until Prince Rama came. He not only picked up the bow with ease, but tried to string it as well. But in the process of stringing it, the bow snapped in half with a tremendous sound. Parashurama, who was then meditating in the Mandara mountains, heard the booming noise from afar. With his divine sense and vision, he knew that it was Rama who bent the Pinaka bow, and he thought that Rama did it deliberately in arrogance. In the meantime, the great feat carried out by Rama was celebrated in Videha. King Dasharatha and everyone from Ayodhya were invited to the wedding of Rama and Sita. Dasharatha, being a friend of Janaka's, gladly arrived with his family and retinue. Soon after the marriage of Rama and Sita was conducted by King Janaka, King Dasharatha, Rama, Sita, and the entire retinue returned to Ayodhya. On the way there were bad omens, and being anxious, Dasharatha asked Vashishta what they pretended. Vashishta replied that there was no need to be alarmed, for though the birds in the air indicated approaching trouble, the animals on the land promised a happy consummation. As Dasharatha and Vashishta were thus conversing, there broke out a great storm. Trees were uprooted, the earth quaked, the clouds of dust went up and hid the sun, and there was an all-enveloping darkness. Everyone was terror-struck. Soon they knew the reason for the strange phenomenon. For there stood before them the awe-inspiring figure of Parashurama, the sworn enemy of Kshatriyas, with a bow on one shoulder and a battle-axe on the other, and an arrow shining like lightning in his hand. Terrible in appearance, with his matted locks gathered overhead, he looked like Rudra, exulting in destruction of Tripura. His face emitted flame-like radiance. The son of sage Jamadagni struck terror among Kshatriyas, many generations of whom he had annihilated. Wherever he went, he was preceded by storm and earthquake, and the Kshatriya race trembled in fear. The Brahmanas in the Dasharatha's retinue said to one another, "Because his father was killed by a king, Parashurama took a vow to destroy the Kshatriya race. We dared to hope that his vengeful wrath had been quenched in blood of the innumerable kings he had slain. Has he again started his cruel campaign?" However, they honored him with the customary offering of water. After receiving it, Parashurama addressed himself to Rama. "Son of Dasharatha, I have heard of your prowess. I was somewhat surprised to learn that you strung the bow in King Janaka's court, and that you drew the string till the bow broke. Here is my bow, equal in all respects to the one that you broke. This is the bow of Vishnu, which was entrusted to my father. If you are able to string this bow, you will be worthy of my battle." Dasharatha was perturbed at the turn of events, and he begged that his son Rama should be spared the trial. He said to Parashurama, "You are a Brahmana. We have heard that, satiated with your revenge, you had gone back to tapas, as becomes your order. Is it proper that you should break your vow now, and seek to injure a prince of tender years who has done you no wrong, and who is dearer to us than life?" Parashurama heard him unmoved. Without so much as looking at him, he had addressed himself solely to Rama, as though the others did not exist. Vishwakarma, the divine architect, originally made two exactly similar bows, one of which was given to Rudra and the other to Vishnu. This is the one given to Vishnu. What you are said to have strung and bent to a breaking point was Shiva's bow. See if you can string this bow of Vishnu's, and if you do, it will be a proof of your skill and strength, and I will then honor you by fighting with you. Parashurama spoke in a loud and arrogant tone, and the whole marriage retinue was spellbound by the spectacular scene of mystical power. Rama was infuriated, but when he replied, he spoke in a courteous and controlled manner. "O son of Jamadagni, you have been vengeful because your father was killed by a king. I do not blame you for that. But you cannot put me down as you have humbled others. Please give me your bow." So saying, he snatched the bow in a twinkling of an eyelid. He strung it, placed an arrow, and pulled it straight, pointing it at the challenger's heart. Addressing Parashurama, he said with a smile, "This mighty Vaishnava arrow placed on the string cannot be pulled back idly. It must destroy something. Tell me, shall it destroy your powers of locomotion, or would you rather that it consumes the fruits of your tapas?" As the son of Dasharatha strung the bow of Vishnu, the glory on Parashurama's face faded, and he stood no longer the warlike conqueror, but a self-subdued rishi, for the purpose of the Parashurama avatar was over. He recalled how Vishnu had a long time ago said to him that he would come again to take back the divine energy that Vishnu had given to the sage. Parashurama said mildly to the prince of Ayodhya, "I realize who you are. I am not sorry that you have quenched my arrogance. Let all my tapas go to you. But because of my promise to Kashyapa, I cannot remain in these domains for long, and have therefore to hurry back to the Mahendra mountains before the sun sets. Let me use my power of locomotion for the single thing. Subject to this, let the arrow which you have set to the bow consume all my powers earned through tapas." So saying, Parashurama went in reverent circumambulation around the prince. And as Rama fired his fearful shaft, the sage vanished along with the arrow.